Have you ever felt that your heart wanted something, but your mind said no? You wanted to speak, to try, to move, but something inside whispered, "It's too dangerous." That whisper is fear, and fear is not your enemy. Fear is your mirror. It shows you exactly where your next step of growth waits. The truth is simple but hard to accept. Everything you want in life lives on the other side of risk. Yet most people spend their lives standing at the edge, staring at the other side, afraid to cross. Think of your biggest dream. Maybe it's starting a business, learning English, leaving a job, or confessing your love. Whatever it is, that dream has a price. The price is uncertainty. You don't know what will happen if you try. You don't know if you will fail, lose, or fall. But here's the secret: nobody ever knows. Even the most successful people in the world didn't know. They only decided that staying still was more painful than falling. They understood that risk is not a danger to avoid. It is a bridge you must cross if you want to reach yourself. Imagine a mountain. At the bottom, you feel safe but small. The air is thick, the view is limited. At the top, there's beauty, space, freedom, but to reach it, you must climb. The climb is risk, the pain in your legs, the fear of falling, the moments when you want to go back. But once you take the first step, you realize something strange. Fear doesn't disappear, it walks with you. It becomes part of you. And if you keep walking, step by step, it begins to respect you. Taking risks doesn't mean doing something wild or foolish. It means saying yes to your own potential. It means trusting the invisible part of yourself that believes you can. Every new skill, every new chapter, every great story starts with a risk. Think about the first person who learned to swim. They didn't know if the water would hold them. They just believed it might. They moved, they tried, they sank a little, they learned. That's how courage is born, not from knowing, but from trying. You are the same. You may think you need more time, more money, more confidence before you begin. But waiting never brings courage. Action does. When you move, even a little, the fear changes shape. It becomes excitement. It becomes energy. That's the art of risk. To see fear not as a stop sign, but as a signal that something beautiful is near. Every risk you take, every small decision against comfort, builds a new version of you. One who trusts, one who grows, one who lives. And once you taste that feeling of aliveness, you'll never want to go back to safety again. Fear always sounds logical. It says, wait until you're ready. It says, think more before you act. It says, be careful, don't make mistakes. And because that voice feels protective, you trust it. But what you don't see is that fear often wears a mask of safety. It pretends to protect you while quietly stealing your life. Every time you listen to it, your world becomes smaller. One no turns into 10. 10 turn into a year. And suddenly, you look around and realize you've built a cage, a safe, soft, invisible cage made of excuses. You might call it responsibility. You might call it logic. But deep down, it's just fear disguised as reason. Your brain was not built for growth. It was built for survival. Thousands of years ago, danger meant lions and storms. Today, danger means judgment and failure. But your brain doesn't know the difference. It reacts the same way. When you want to take a risk, it sends alarms. Don't do it. It's too much. Stay comfortable. Your heart wants expansion, but your brain wants control. And this is the battle that shapes every life. The heart pulling forward, the brain pulling back. To master the art of risk, you don't destroy fear. You learn to walk with it. You thank it for trying to keep you safe, but you lead the way. The brain follows evidence, not dreams. So you must show it proof. The first proof is action. When you take one small risk and survive, the brain starts to relax. It learns that not every unknown is dangerous. The second proof is reflection. After each small victory, say to yourself, I did it. I faced it. I'm okay. These words tell your mind that you are capable. The third proof is repetition. Every time you act despite fear, you rewire your brain. You train it to associate risk with growth, not pain. Think of fear as a dog. If you run from it, it chases you. If you freeze, it barks louder. But if you calmly face it and take one slow step forward, it begins to follow you instead of attack. That is how courage grows, not in silence, not in planning, but in walking with shaking hands. So start small. Speak when your voice trembles. Say yes to something you normally avoid. Ask the question. Apply for the opportunity. Try the new habit. Every time you act, the voice of fear becomes softer and the voice of possibility becomes louder. This is how you move from survival to creation. You were not born to stay safe. You were born to explore, to build, to love, to lose, to begin again. Safety may keep you alive, but only risk makes you feel alive. The safest life is often the emptiest one. Because no matter how long you live, if you never take a chance, you never truly live. And when you finally realize that, you stop asking, what if I fail? And start asking, what if I fly? That simple change in question transforms everything. Because the art of risk begins with a new conversation, one where fear is not the master, but the teacher. There comes a quiet moment after you take a risk. Your heart is still racing, your thoughts are loud, but something inside feels lighter. That is freedom. It's not the loud, dramatic kind you see in movies. It's the silent, private freedom that whispers, I did it. I moved. For the first time, you didn't let fear win. You didn't wait for perfect. You didn't ask for permission. You just acted. And in that small act, something powerful shifted your identity. Every time you face fear, you rewrite your story. You stop being the person who watches and start being the person who lives. That's what risk really does. It doesn't just change your circumstances. It changes who you believe you are. You begin to see yourself differently, stronger, braver, more alive. And once you've seen yourself that way, it's impossible to go back. But here's the truth many people don't realize. Risk is not a one-time event. It's a daily practice. Life keeps offering you small invitations to grow, and most of them come disguised as discomfort. Speaking when you'd rather stay silent. Trying when you might fail. Forgiving when it still hurts. Each of these moments asks the same question. Will you choose fear or freedom? Most people think courage feels big and loud, but real courage is quiet. It happens in tiny seconds. When you decide to show up even though your heart is shaking. When you open your mouth and say what matters. When you start the conversation that could change everything. These are not grand, dramatic acts. They are whispers of bravery. Yet together, they build a life that feels like truth. Think about it. A child learns to walk not by staying safe, but by falling hundreds of times. Each fall is a risk. Each fall is a teacher. The child doesn't say, maybe I'm not good at walking. The child laughs, stands up, and tries again. You were that child once. You still are. Somewhere inside you, the fearless learner still exists, waiting to try, to explore, to fall and rise again. When you understand this, you stop seeing failure as the end. You see it as a sign that you're alive and learning. Because if everything you do is safe, then nothing you do will ever surprise you. And a life without surprise is a life without joy. So here's a small exercise. Close your eyes and remember one moment when you took a risk. Maybe you spoke in English even when you were nervous. Maybe you said yes to a new job or moved to a new city. Feel that moment. The fear, the breath, the beating heart, and then the calm that followed. That calm is your reward. That calm is the beginning of freedom. Risk is not the enemy of peace. It's the doorway to it. When you finally stop running from uncertainty, you discover something magical. You can handle more than you ever imagined. You become unshakable not because life is easy, but because you trust yourself to face what comes. And that trust, once built, is the foundation of every brave life. After freedom comes a strange temptation, the desire to control everything again. You've taken one risk, you've felt the thrill, and suddenly your mind says, "Now, let's make sure nothing goes wrong next time." It sounds smart. It sounds safe. But that desire to control is fear's second disguise. It hides behind perfectionism, behind plans and lists, behind endless preparation. You tell yourself you're being careful, but what you're really doing is protecting yourself from feeling uncertain again. Control gives the illusion of safety, but not the reality of it. You can plan every detail, practice every move, and still, life will surprise you. The unexpected always finds a way in, because life is not a script. It's a dance. You can't predict every step. You can only move with the rhythm. The art of risk is also the art of surrender, the ability to move forward even when you can't see the whole path. Think about the ocean. You can't stop the waves. You can't make the water still, but you can learn to surf. You don't fight the wave, you ride it. You fall, you swallow salt water, you stand up again, and slowly, you learn balance. Risk works the same way. It's not about forcing life to behave. It's about learning to trust yourself in motion. Many people waste years waiting for the right time. They wait until they have more money, more confidence, more support, more clarity. But the right time never arrives. Because risk, by nature, always feels too early. If you feel ready, it's no longer a risk, it's a repeat. Growth doesn't happen in perfect timing. It happens in movement, in mistakes, in messy attempts that slowly shape your strength. Letting go of control doesn't mean being careless. It means accepting that uncertainty is part of the process. When you stop trying to control outcomes, you start controlling your energy. You stop draining yourself with what-ifs and begin focusing on what now. That shift is where power lives. Try this simple practice. When you start feeling anxious about the future, say out loud, "I release what I can't control." Then take one action, a small one, that moves you closer to what you want. It could be sending that email, saying yes to that idea, or even admitting that you're afraid. That act becomes your anchor. It grounds you in the present moment, where real courage exists. The truth is, control and creativity can't live in the same space. When you loosen your grip, new ideas flow. When you stop predicting, you start discovering. Every great artist, inventor, or dreamer knows this. They don't wait for certainty. They step into chaos and find beauty inside it. So the next time you feel the need to plan everything perfectly, take a breath and remember, control is heavy, trust is light. Choose light. Let life move through you instead of around you. Because the art of risk is not about forcing the world to be safe. It's about learning to feel safe inside an uncertain world. When you stop trying to control everything, something unexpected happens. You fall. Maybe not physically, but emotionally, mentally, in plans, in hopes. And the first fall always hurts. The ego screams, "See? I told you it was dangerous." The heart feels embarrassed. The mind feels foolish. You start thinking, maybe I'm not made for this. But what if falling isn't a failure at all? What if it's the only real teacher? Every person you admire has fallen more times than you can imagine. They've lost money, trust, opportunities, and sometimes faith. Yet, they rose again. Because falling doesn't break you, it shapes you. Think of a sculptor working on a stone. Every strike looks like destruction, but each one reveals more of the masterpiece inside. Life works the same way. Every fall removes what's false and leaves you closer to what's real. When you fall, your mask breaks. The one that said, "I can do everything perfectly." The one that pretended not to care about fear. The fall reminds you that you are human, fragile, emotional, alive. And that realization is powerful because it frees you. You no longer have to act strong all the time. You only have to be honest. Honesty creates courage faster than any plan. When you say, "Yes, I failed, but I'm still here," you reclaim your power. There's a quiet wisdom that grows in people who have fallen. They move slower, but with depth. They speak less, but with truth. They don't rush to prove anything because they've already faced the ground. They know pain, but they also know recovery. That's why the most inspiring people aren't the ones who never fell. They're the ones who learned how to rise with grace. Here's something to remember. Falling is not the opposite of success. It's part of success. You can't grow new wings without losing balance first. Each mistake you make teaches you something your comfort zone never could. You learn patience, humility, flexibility. You learn how to adapt, how to forgive, how to keep moving even when you feel broken. Try this small reflection tonight. Think of one time you failed. Don't hide from it. Look at it gently, as if you were watching someone you love. Ask yourself, what did that moment teach me that comfort never would? Maybe it taught you empathy. Maybe it taught you endurance. Maybe it showed you who stayed by your side when things went wrong. That's wisdom you can't get from success alone. And when you fall again, and you will, remember the earth is not your enemy. It's the place you stand to rise again. Falling grounds you. It reminds you where you began and how far you've come. In truth, risk without falling isn't growth, it's luck. Real courage begins when you fall, look up, and say, "That's not where my story ends." Because the art of risk is not about never falling. It's about turning every fall into flight. After a fall, there is always silence. The world keeps moving, but inside you, everything slows down. You start to question yourself, your choices, your worth, your strength. It's a heavy, quiet place. But inside that silence, something important is happening. You are rebuilding. The courage to rise doesn't come in loud moments of motivation. It comes in those small, invisible decisions when nobody is watching. When you whisper, "I'll try again." To rise is not to erase the fall. It's to build on top of it. Every scar you carry holds a story, and every story has power. You may not see it yet, but one day you'll look back and realize that your strength didn't grow when things went right. It grew when everything fell apart, and you still stood up. That's what true resilience is, not perfection, not success, but returning to the fight after you've been knocked down. Imagine a seed buried deep in the soil. In the dark, it might feel lost, forgotten, crushed by weight. But under that pressure, something begins, a quiet, unstoppable push toward the surface. The seed doesn't know what's waiting above, yet it rises anyway. That's you. Every time you choose to get up after disappointment, you are pushing through your own soil. You're reaching for light you can't yet see. People often think strength means never showing pain. But real strength is honesty. It's saying, "I'm hurt, but I'm healing." It's asking for help, forgiving yourself, and trying one more time even when your confidence feels broken. The strongest people are not the ones who always win. They are the ones who always return. When you rise after failure, something subtle changes inside you. You begin to trust yourself, not because you always succeed, but because you know you can recover. That trust becomes your foundation. Suddenly, risk feels different. It's no longer a threat. It's a challenge. You stop asking, "What if I fall again?" and start asking, "What will I learn this time?" Try this exercise. Write down 3 moments when you wanted to quit but didn't. Look at them. See the pattern. Each time you survived, you became a little wiser, a little calmer, a little braver. That's your proof. You have already risen before. You can do it again. The courage to rise doesn't come from others believing in you. It comes from remembering your own survival. Every time you've been broken and healed, you've trained your spirit to endure. So when the next fall comes, and it will, you won't panic. You'll breathe, adjust, and rise again with quieter confidence. Because rising is not an event, it's a rhythm. You rise, you fall, you rise again. And with each rise, you gain something no comfort zone can offer: depth. You begin to see life not as a straight path, but as a dance between breaking and becoming. That's the secret no one tells you. Growth doesn't always feel good. It feels real. And once you learn to rise with peace instead of panic, risk stops feeling like danger. It starts to feel like freedom calling your name again. When you learn how to rise, the world begins to open again. But this time, it feels different. You start to notice that no matter how much you plan, life always keeps a part of itself hidden. You never really know what tomorrow will bring. And for many people, that not knowing is terrifying. They crave control, prediction, guarantees. They want life to be safe, simple, and certain. But the truth is, certainty is not life, it's repetition. The real beauty of living begins in uncertainty. Think of the sky before sunrise. You can't yet see the light, but you know it's coming. That moment, the in-between of dark and dawn, is pure uncertainty. Yet it holds a quiet promise, a space where anything could happen. That's what every risk feels like, standing in the early light, unsure of what will come next, but choosing to believe it will be worth it. Uncertainty is not the enemy. It's the birthplace of possibility. Every invention, every love story, every dream begins with, "I don't know what will happen." If everything were certain, there would be no discovery, no surprise, no growth. You'd already know every ending before it began. But life's magic hides in the moments we can't predict. The unexpected meeting, the sudden chance, the quiet yes that changes everything. Your brain, however, loves patterns. It wants to protect you from chaos. That's why it pushes you toward the familiar, even when the familiar hurts. It says, "Stay here. At least here we know what to expect." But you don't need to destroy uncertainty. You only need to make peace with it. The way to do that is through presence, learning to stand calmly inside the unknown. Try this small habit. When you catch yourself worrying about the future, stop and name 3 things around you right now. The sound in the room, the air on your skin, the colors you see. This simple act pulls your attention back to the present, the only place where courage can breathe. You can't be brave in a future that doesn't exist yet. You can only be brave now. And here's something powerful. When you stop fighting uncertainty, you start noticing opportunities. You begin to see how life quietly guides you toward unexpected paths. A delay might lead you to someone you were meant to meet. A failure might reveal a strength you didn't know you had. Uncertainty is not emptiness. It's hidden design. The greatest journeys always begin without maps. The explorer doesn't demand to know every turn before leaving. They step forward because curiosity is stronger than fear. You can live the same way. Replace the sentence, "I'm scared of not knowing," with "I'm curious about what I'll learn." That one word, curious, changes everything. It turns fear into fascination, anxiety into attention, and risk into adventure. So when life feels blurry, when plans collapse, and paths disappear, don't rush to fix it. Breathe and whisper to yourself, maybe this is where something new begins. Because it usually is. Uncertainty isn't a punishment. It's the universe giving you space to create something that has never existed before. Once you begin to accept uncertainty, you discover the next great lesson in the art of risk: trust. Not the blind, careless kind, but deep, quiet trust. The kind that lives in your bones and whispers, "I'll find a way." Trust is not about knowing that everything will go right. It's about believing that even when it goes wrong, you will handle it. Most people never learn this. They only trust when life feels easy. They trust when plans work, when people agree, when outcomes are clear. But the moment things get difficult, their faith disappears. That's not trust. That's comfort. Real trust is built in the storm, not in the sunshine. Think of a tightrope walker. When they take their first step above the ground, there's no guarantee they won't fall. But they trust the rope, the balance, the training, and most importantly, themselves. Every step is uncertain, yet they move anyway, not because they are fearless, but because they know fear can't walk for them. You are that walker every time you take a risk. The rope is your path. It shakes, it moves, it tests you. But the only way to cross is to keep walking. Trust begins with small choices. You trust yourself to wake up when the alarm rings, to show up for your work, to finish what you start. Each time you keep a promise to yourself, even a small one, your inner strength grows. That's how confidence is built, not from perfection, but from consistency. Try this habit. Every morning, say softly, "I trust myself to handle today." Don't say it for motivation. Say it as a reminder. You have already faced hard days and survived them all. You have already solved problems that once scared you. You have already rebuilt after disappointment. That's evidence. Trust grows from remembering what you've already done, not what you fear you can't do. When you begin to trust yourself, something shifts. The world doesn't feel so threatening anymore. The same unknown that once terrified you now feels like an open sky. You start seeing challenges as invitations, not warnings. And when you meet people who doubt you, their voices don't break you. They simply remind you to listen to your own. Trust is the invisible bridge that carries you between fear and freedom. It's what allows you to take one more step when logic says stop. It's what keeps you moving when results don't show yet. And it's what turns every risk into a lesson instead of a loss. Because when trust becomes your foundation, you no longer need guarantees. You realize that certainty is not peace. Trust is. When trust begins to take root, the next step reveals itself: action. Because trust without movement is only a dream. You can believe in yourself all day, but belief only becomes real when your feet begin to move. The art of risk is built not on talk, but on motion. Every small step you take in the direction of your fear turns it into fuel. Action doesn't need to be perfect. In fact, perfection is the biggest enemy of progress. Many people wait until they feel ready, polished, or certain before they start. But ready is a lie. Nobody is ever fully ready. The brave ones simply begin while still trembling. They speak even when their voice shakes. They take the first step even when they can't see the second. That's how growth begins, not in planning, but in motion. Think of a river. It doesn't stop to decide which direction to flow. It moves, finds rocks, adjusts, and keeps moving. That's how you must live. Keep flowing. When you act, life reacts. New doors open, new people appear, and the path ahead becomes clearer. But none of that can happen while you stand still. Here's a simple truth. Clarity doesn't come before action. It comes after. You understand more by doing than by thinking. Every attempt teaches you something. What works, what doesn't, who you are, and who you're becoming. Even mistakes are teachers, whispering lessons you can't learn from books. Try this small challenge for the next 7 days. Choose one small risk and take one action toward it every day. It can be tiny, writing one email, speaking one English sentence aloud, sharing one idea. Don't focus on the result. Focus on the movement. By the end of the week, you'll notice something beautiful. Fear starts to lose its voice when you keep moving through it. Action builds energy. It breaks the heavy fog of hesitation. It teaches your brain that risk is not pain, it's discovery. Each time you act, you send a message to yourself. I am capable. I am trying. I am alive. And that message rewires you faster than any plan ever could. Remember, action is a language your soul understands better than words. When you move, you tell life, I'm ready. And life always answers to motion. It meets you halfway. So stop asking, what if it doesn't work? And start asking, what will I learn by trying? Because no action is wasted. Every step you take carves a path toward a stronger version of you. The art of risk isn't about giant leaps. It's about daily steps. Small, brave, ordinary actions that slowly build an extraordinary life. Something powerful begins to happen when you keep taking small actions. The steps that once felt heavy start to feel natural. The fear that once froze you becomes quiet. You begin to move with rhythm, not force. That rhythm is called momentum, and it is one of the greatest allies in the art of risk. Momentum doesn't just move you forward. It carries you when motivation disappears. Motivation is a spark. Momentum is the fire that keeps burning long after the spark fades. Most people quit because they wait for motivation to return, not realizing that it's action, not emotion, that brings it back. When you act first, feelings follow. When you wait to feel ready, you stay stuck in the same circle of hesitation. Think of a cyclist going uphill. The hardest part is the first few turns of the pedal. Every muscle protests, every breath feels heavy. But once the wheels start rolling, something magical happens. Effort turns into flow. The hill is still there, but movement becomes easier. That's what momentum does. It transforms resistance into rhythm. You create momentum by repeating small actions daily. Not huge leaps, not sudden bursts of energy, just consistency. A simple English sentence every morning. A 10-minute walk every evening. One page of reading, one deep conversation, one brave attempt. Each act, on its own, may look small, but together, they create a quiet storm of progress. Try this. Instead of asking, can I do this forever? Ask, can I do this today? That question frees you from pressure. Because progress isn't about forever, it's about now. Do the small thing today, then do another small thing tomorrow. The secret of unstoppable people is not that they never get tired or scared. It's that they never stop moving long enough for fear to catch them. Momentum doesn't mean speed. It means direction. Even slow movement is powerful when it's steady. Every day you show up, even tired, even doubtful, you're proving to yourself that you can be trusted. That trust builds confidence. Confidence builds courage. And courage creates even more momentum. It's a beautiful circle that begins with one decision, to keep going. There will be days when you feel like you're moving backward, when results seem invisible and the path feels endless. But remember, growth is often silent. The seed doesn't make noise when it breaks the ground. It just grows. The same is true for you. Your effort may not shout, but it's changing you quietly from within. Momentum is the dance between discipline and hope. It's how you turn risk into a lifestyle instead of a moment. When you move every day, even a little, you stop chasing courage. You become it. When momentum begins to build, it quietly asks for one more ingredient: consistency. Momentum starts the fire, but consistency keeps it alive. It's not the dramatic moments of courage that change your life. It's the small, repeated acts of persistence. Anyone can take a bold step once, but few can take quiet steps every day. That is where transformation happens. Consistency is not exciting. It rarely feels heroic. It looks like waking up early when nobody sees, practicing your English when nobody listens, working on your dream when no one believes. But in those silent repetitions, you create strength that can't be shaken. Success is not a single risk that worked. It's 1,000 tiny risks that didn't stop. The truth is, discipline is just love in action. Love for your future self, love for your potential, love for your growth. When you stay consistent, you're telling your future, I care enough to keep showing up for you. And that promise to yourself is sacred. You may fail, you may rest, but you return. That returning is everything. Think of a sculptor again. Every day, they chip away at the stone. Some days, it looks like nothing changes. But one day, shape appears, then detail, then beauty. Consistency works the same way. It's slow, invisible, almost boring at first, but one morning you wake up and realize you've become someone stronger, clearer, freer. To build consistency, lower the pressure, not the goal. Don't demand perfection, just demand presence. Maybe today you can't give 100%, but you can give 10%. And 10% given daily beats 100% given rarely. Small progress compounds faster than you imagine. Try this practice. Each night, write one sentence that begins with "Today I showed up by." It could be "Today I showed up by studying for 10 minutes," or "by speaking one brave word," or "by not quitting." This trains your mind to see consistency, not just achievement, and seeing it fuels more of it. Remember, consistency isn't about speed. It's about rhythm. It's about keeping the promise to yourself even on ordinary days. The world celebrates big wins, but life rewards the quiet ones. The mornings you didn't give up, the evenings you tried again, the times you whispered, "I'm still here." When you master consistency, risk becomes easier. Because you know that even if one attempt fails, another is coming. You stop being defined by results and start being defined by resilience. And when that happens, fear loses its grip completely. The strong are not those who never fall or never doubt. The strong are those who keep returning to the path, step after step, until the path itself becomes part of who they are. As consistency settles into your rhythm, you meet another quiet teacher: patience. It doesn't arrive with excitement or noise. It arrives when progress feels slow, when you've done the work and the results still hide. Patience is the art of breathing through the waiting. It's what turns persistence into peace. In our world, everyone wants speed. We want success overnight, skills in a week, transformation in a month. But real growth doesn't care about speed. It cares about roots. You can't rush a tree to grow faster by pulling its leaves. You water it, protect it, and wait. One day, when you least expect it, green appears. That's how patience works. It rewards quiet care, not restless demand. When you take risks, the waiting period is the hardest part. You've jumped, you've tried, and now silence. You begin to doubt. You wonder if you made a mistake. But waiting is not failure, it's incubation. Life is rearranging things behind the curtain. Growth is happening in ways you can't yet see. The seed breaks underground long before it shows a leaf above. Patience doesn't mean doing nothing. It means doing what you can and trusting time with the rest. Keep showing up, keep learning, keep improving your craft, your English, your confidence, your peace. The time will come when everything aligns. But if you rush, you'll arrive unprepared. Patience shapes not just the result, but the person who receives it. Try this. When impatience rises, take one slow breath and say, "Good things are growing, even if I can't see them yet." Those words soften the heart. They remind you that the universe doesn't move by your clock. The sun doesn't rush to rise, yet it never fails to appear. Every delay carries a lesson. Sometimes the wait teaches humility, how to listen, how to slow down. Sometimes it teaches gratitude, how to value what you already have. And often, it teaches trust, the faith that what's meant for you will arrive in its perfect season. Remember, a risk doesn't become success the moment it works. It becomes success the moment you refuse to give up while waiting. Patience is not weakness, it's maturity. It's what separates those who almost reach from those who truly arrive. When you master patience, you move differently. You no longer chase outcomes, you grow toward them. You stop comparing timelines, stop fearing time, and start dancing with it. And that calm strength, that quiet trust in timing, is one of the purest forms of freedom you'll ever know. When patience becomes your habit, another layer of strength begins to grow: faith. Not the kind tied only to religion, but the faith that lives deep inside your chest. The belief that even when you don't see the whole picture, something good is being built. Faith is the bridge between what you can control and what you must release. It allows you to keep walking even when the road ahead is covered in fog. Faith doesn't mean you never doubt. It means that even with doubt in your hands, you still take the next step. The artist keeps painting when no one watches. The student keeps studying when results are slow. The dreamer keeps building even when others laugh. Why? Because faith whispers what fear forgets. Your story isn't over yet. There will be moments when everything looks still, when doors stay closed and silence feels endless. That's when faith is tested. Anyone can believe when things are easy, but real faith blooms in darkness. It grows when logic says stop, but your heart says continue. It lives in that thin space between despair and determination. Try this quiet practice. Each night, place your hand on your chest and say, "I don't know how yet, but I believe it will work out." Feel your heartbeat as you say it. That rhythm is proof of life, proof that something inside you is still trying. And that's all faith needs, one steady heartbeat that refuses to give up. Faith is not about certainty, it's about courage in uncertainty. It allows you to look at the unknown not as a threat, but as a field of possibility. Every great achievement in history began as an act of faith, someone choosing to believe in what did not yet exist. The airplane, the light bulb, the internet, even your favorite song, all born from a person who dared to trust the unseen. When you carry faith, your relationship with risk changes again. You no longer see it as a test of luck. You see it as a conversation between you and life. You take one step, life answers with another. Sometimes it says yes, sometimes no, but always it teaches. Faith keeps you moving through both. And when doubt returns, because it will, don't fight it. Doubt is part of faith's family. It visits to make you choose again, to remind you why you started. So when it comes, smile softly and say, "You're welcome here, but I'm still walking." Because walking through doubt is the truest expression of belief. Faith doesn't make life easier. It makes you steadier. It lets you risk, wait, and rise with grace. It gives you the strength to build bridges where others see only water, and to cross them with your head held high. When faith begins to live inside you, your energy changes. You no longer move only for success or approval. You move because something deeper is calling you. That something is purpose, the quiet fire that gives meaning to your risks. Without purpose, effort feels heavy. But with it, even pain feels useful. Purpose doesn't always appear as a grand mission. Sometimes it begins as a simple pull in the heart, to create, to teach, to help, to speak, to become. Purpose is what transforms risk from fear into devotion. When you know why you're doing something, the how becomes easier. You stop asking, "What if I fail?" and start asking, "What if this helps even one person?" You stop measuring your life by safety and start measuring it by impact. Because purpose gives risk direction. It's not about gambling with your life. It's about investing it where it matters most. Think of a candle. The flame can only burn by consuming itself. Yet, through that burning, it gives light. That's what purpose does. It turns sacrifice into meaning. Every time you give your time, energy, or courage to something that matters, you create light around you. And that light spreads further than you imagine. The key is not to look for your purpose as if it's hidden somewhere far away. Purpose is rarely found. It's built. You build it by following curiosity, by noticing what makes you feel alive, by paying attention to the moments that move you. Each step, each risk, each failure adds a piece to the puzzle until one day you look back and realize, this is who I was meant to become. Try this reflection. Ask yourself, what makes me forget time? Whatever answers come, teaching, writing, helping, creating, learning, start there. That's the voice of purpose whispering. You don't need to turn it into a career or a title. Just nurture it, like a fire you feed slowly. Over time, it grows bright enough to guide you even through darkness. When you move with purpose, even fear changes shape. It doesn't disappear. It simply loses control. Because purpose gives you something stronger to hold on to. It reminds you that every risk has value, even the ones that don't go as planned. And when exhaustion visits, and it will, purpose will be your fuel. It will say, rest but don't quit. It will remind you that what you're building is bigger than today's struggle. It will turn the smallest actions into sacred acts of progress. With faith and purpose together, you stop walking through life as a survivor. You walk as a creator, someone who turns uncertainty into art, fear into motion, and risk into meaning. When purpose settles into your bones, something beautiful happens. You stop chasing life, and life starts flowing through you. The risks that once terrified you now feel like invitations. You no longer ask, what will happen if I fail? But rather, what will happen if I never try? The answer to that question gives you clarity. Because the truth is, the greatest pain is not falling. It's never flying at all. You begin to realize that risk was never about danger. It was always about aliveness. Every leap you take, every word you speak, every dream you pursue pulls you closer to who you truly are. Fear still visits, but now you welcome it as a companion, not a captor. You say, come with me. We're doing this together. And together, you walk toward growth. The art of risk is not a single act. It's a way of living. It's the courage to keep your heart open even after heartbreak. It's the decision to trust again after failure. It's saying yes to change when comfort calls you to stay. Risk doesn't end fear. It teaches you to dance with it. It's how you move from surviving to truly living. Every story of transformation begins this way, with one small risk, one choice to move instead of hide. A new language spoken aloud, a love confessed, a step into the unknown. Each act may look ordinary from the outside, but inside, it's a revolution. Because every time you say yes to risk, you are saying yes to life. Try this small but powerful ritual. Every morning, whisper to yourself, "Today, I choose life over fear." Let that sentence become a rhythm in your mind. It's simple, but it changes everything. It reminds you that courage isn't something you find, it's something you practice. One brave breath, one bold step, one honest word at a time. And when the world doubts you, when people tell you to be realistic, smile gently. Realism builds walls. Courage builds bridges. You were not born to stay behind walls. You were born to cross bridges, to explore, to fall, to rise, to create, to love, to shine. Now you know the truth. Risk is not a threat. It's an invitation to become fully alive. You don't need a perfect plan. You don't need guarantees. You only need presence, trust, and movement. So step forward, even if your legs shake. Speak, even if your voice trembles. Live, even if the path is unclear. Because the art of risk is really the art of being human, fragile, brave, unfinished, and alive. You are not here to watch others live their dreams. You are here to live yours. And every time you take a risk, no matter how small, the world expands a little more because of you.